Hey guys, I know this is going on a gaming channel, but I decided I'm going to post my bracket that I'm doing for the NCAA tournament. So let's get started. Louisville and the 16 whatever Liberty and stuff. I picked Louisville. I think it's an obvious choice. Next game, Colorado State and Missouri. I'm going to pick the upset for Missouri just because I feel that they are a quicker team. Colorado State does not have as strong of a schedule as Missouri, so they don't know how to win games against teams like Missouri. Okay, next game, Oklahoma State, Oregon. I like Oregon in this one. I think they are a very strong, underrated team, and I don't know how they could have gotten a 12 seed, honestly. Next game, St. Louis, New Mexico State. I picked St. Louis. Next game, Memphis versus the playing game, St. Mary's. I picked Memphis just because I don't feel these teams have a chance of beating Memphis. Michigan State, Valparaiso, it's kind of an obvious choice. It's Michigan State. They're a very strong team. They play in the Big Ten, one of the best conferences in the league. So I think it's a good idea. Creighton, Cincinnati, I think this is a great matchup. These are fairly even teams. Cincinnati does have a stronger schedule, and they finished the season well, in my opinion. Creighton had a huge winning streak, but they didn't have a stronger schedule. But I do think Creighton will pull this win out. Next, Albany versus Duke. Duke. That's a pretty obvious choice. Kansas, Western Kentucky, Kansas. UNC, Villanova. I love this matchup, but I think UNC will pull this one out. VCU, Akron. This is a rematch of the bracket buster from 2 years ago. I think VCU will win by a large margin. Michigan, San Diego, South Dakota State. My bad. I think Michigan will win. South Dakota State did not have a good schedule at all. They did not have any good wins this year. UCLA, Minnesota. I'm going to pick Minnesota for the upset. And although Minnesota had, I think 11 or 12 losses, UCLA's starting point guard, who's their leader, broke his foot. And so now they won't. A lot of people are deciding Minnesota is a better choice. Okay, Northwestern State versus Florida. I pick Florida. San Diego State versus Oklahoma. I pick Oklahoma on the upset. I think Oklahoma plays in a better conference, so I just think they have more experience playing against good teams. And the obvious choice for this one is Georgia versus Florida Gulf, Georgetown. Excuse me. And now let's come down to the bottom half of the bracket. Okay. Gonzaga is the obvious choice, and so is Indiana. I'm going to go ahead and put down the 1 seed right there. Pittsburgh, Wichita State. I think Pittsburgh is going to win this game. I think it's going to be a good game to watch. But I think Wichita State just does not have the strength of schedule that they needed to prepare for this game. Wisconsin, Ole Miss. I picked Wisconsin. They are on a huge streak. They did just lose to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, but they had also just come off huge wins against Michigan State and Michigan. Kansas State, LaSalle, and BSU. I don't know who BSU is. I think it's Boise State. Kansas State's the obvious choice for this one. Arizona, Belmont. Belmont was a fairly good team last year, but I don't think they have as much momentum coming in as Arizona does, so Arizona is my choice. New Mexico, Harvard. New Mexico is just a really good team, and I think, honestly, Arizona and New Mexico is a match made in heaven. Okay, Notre Dame, Iowa State. I choose Notre Dame to beat Iowa State by a hair. Ohio State, Iona. I know this might sound biased because I am an Ohio State fan, but I think Ohio State's going to pull this one out because it's pretty obvious. Okay, NC State, Temple. I think it's going to be a great game, but I think NC State's going to pull this out. Temple does not have as good of a strength of schedule as NC State, and NC State's on a little more of a streak than Temple. UNLV, California. This is actually a really good matchup. I'm going to pick California on the upset. Syracuse, Montana. Let's see. Montana is a good team, but they just don't have a very good strength schedule, and they play in a really bad conference, so I'm going to pick Syracuse. Butler, Bucknell. I think this is probably the game that I think has the biggest chance of being an upset. I think Bucknell's going to win by a hair. That's my upset for that game. Marquette, Davidson. Dick Vitale does have Davidson upsetting Marquette and then losing the round at 32. I have Marquette winning this one. Marquette's a very good ball team, and I think they will win this game. Okay, Illinois, Colorado. I think Colorado is going to upset Illinois. And Miami, Florida versus Pacific. Miami's the obvious choice. Time to go to see who's going to the Sweet 16. Okay. Louisville, Missouri. I think Louisville's going to win this one. Oregon, St. Louis. I think St. Louis is barely going to beat Oregon. I thought about putting Oregon in the Sweet 16, but then I decided St. Louis deserves to go to it. Memphis, Michigan State. I have Michigan State winning this one. And Creighton, Duke. I thought about this for a long time. And, you know, Creighton, I barely picked them over Cincinnati, so I gotta pick Duke on this one. Now, over here. Kansas, UNC. Kansas is a fairly obvious choice. UNC has a small chance of being an upset, but I think Kansas is just too good of a ball team to lose to UNC. VCU, Michigan. I think it'll be a good game, but I think Michigan's going to win by a medium margin, about maybe 10 points, maybe 8. Okay, Minnesota, Florida. Florida's my obvious choice, in my opinion, for the win. And Oklahoma, Georgetown. Georgetown's just unstoppable right now versus teams like Oklahoma. Okay. Gonzaga versus Pitt. I thought this was a great matchup, but I think Gonzaga's going to win. They are just on too hot of a streak. Wisconsin, Kansas State. I'll take Wisconsin on the upset. I like them. I think they're just on a really good streak, although they did not win their last game and did not win their conference. Arizona, New Mexico. I will take New Mexico. I think they're just a really good team. And then Notre Dame, Ohio State. I'll take Ohio State in that one. Indiana, NC State. I think Indiana's the obvious choice there. California, Syracuse. I think Syracuse is going to win that game. Bucknell, Marquette. Bucknell did have a great game against Butler, but I think it's time for their streak to end. Marquette's going to win that game. Colorado, Miami. I think Miami is my personal choice to win that game. So now back up to decide who's going to the Elite Eight. Louisville, St. Louis. I think Louisville is just, after seeing what they did to Syracuse, coming back from the ashes like that, I don't think a team like St. Louis, who plays in not one of the Big Six conferences, can pull out a win like that. So I have to pick Louisville on that one. And Michigan State, Duke, I'll take Michigan State on the upset just because of how good of a ball team they are and how good at rebounding they are. Kansas versus Michigan, I'll take Kansas. I don't think Michigan is actually that good of a team. I almost had VCU upset them in the round of 32. Florida, Georgetown, I think Florida's going to pull out the win in this game. I think it'll be a great game, but I honestly think that Florida will pull it out. Up here, Gonzaga, Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's going to beat Gonzaga. Knowing that Gonzaga only has 2 losses on the year and 31 wins, also, they only had 1 win versus the ranked opponent, and then they lost a few against ranked opponents, and then the rest were unranked. I know it's because of their conference, but that just does not help their case, having barely any wins against good teams. So I have to put Wisconsin there. New Mexico, Ohio State, I think it's going to be a brutal game of back and forth, points scored, rebounds, lead changes, but I think Ohio State will pull this one out. And over here, I think Indiana will beat Syracuse, and Miami will beat Marquette. So on to see who's going to the Final Four. Making sure. Okay. Louisville, Michigan State. This was a really tough game, but I think Michigan State's going to pull off the upset and go to the Final Four. Kansas, Florida. I actually choose Florida, another 3 seed, to upset Kansas. I think Florida's a really good team. And that's why I have to send them to the Final Four. Wisconsin, Ohio State. I think Wisconsin, they just came off a loss to Ohio State. So I think Ohio State can pull out another win against them. Indiana, Miami. I think Miami is a great team, and I think they're going to upset Indiana. So now up here, Michigan State, Florida. I think that, not Michigan State, Florida. Michigan State versus Ohio State. I think Ohio State's going to win this game. I just think that they're too much on a roll right now. They've won a bunch of games in a row. They just won the Big Ten championship. So I think they will win their game against Michigan State. And then Miami versus Florida. 2 Florida teams. I think this is a great matchup, but in the end, I think Miami is going to win that game. And then my tiebreaker is going to be 71-66. That's going to be the final score. And my national champions are the Ohio State Buckeyes. Thanks for watching, guys.